Hello, hello! In today's video, I'm very excited to show you how to work a lateral braid, which is essentially a chain of V's that runs perpendicular to the direction of the knitting. I've used this beautiful decorative detail to separate ribbed edges from the main fabric in a few of my patterns, and so many knitters who have made these patterns have told me how much they love this detail and had fun learning how to do it. Use the links in the description box below to jump to the instructions for working flat, for working in the round, or for closing the gap at the end of the round. I'll also provide a couple tips for tidying the row after the braid. Let's go! To make a lateral braid when working flat, you will start by skipping the first stitch on the needle and knitting through the back loop of the second stitch. So we're going to do that by turning the work over slightly so we can see the wrong side. And then we're going to take our right needle and insert it into the back of the second stitch like this. Now we're going to knit that stitch, again through the back loop, and leave it on the left needle. Next, we have to knit the first stitch normally through the front loop. And now, since both of those stitches have been worked, we're going to drop both loops from the left needle. Now this next step is important to keep the braid continuous. Slip the last stitch on the right needle back to the left needle, and that gets us ready to repeat the process. Your yarn should be coming from the first stitch on the left needle before you knit through the back loop of the second stitch, as I'm doing here. And then we're going to knit into the front of the first stitch once again. Drop both loops from the left needle, and you can start to see our little braid here. And then slip the last stitch back to the left needle, and simply keep repeating these steps across the row. So as you're repeating these steps, make sure you keep the tension pretty snug. Otherwise, the stitches of the row that follow the braid could appear loose and stretched out. There are a couple ways to neaten the next row or to keep it from looking too stretched out, and I'll talk about that briefly at the end of this video. But for now, I'm going to keep repeating until the end of the row and then show you the final stitches. Alright, so now I'm at my last couple stitches, and after the very last stitch is worked, you've probably already guessed it, you just drop both loops and then don't slip the last stitch back to the left needle. The final step is simply to adore your braid. Now we're going to do this in the round, and you're going to need a crochet hook to close the gap that will form here between the beginning and end of the round. And the steps are largely the same as when you're working flat, but there are a few setup steps. The first is to remove your beginning of the round marker if you're using one, just set it aside. And then your yarn needs to be in the back. So if your last stitch was a purl stitch like mine was, move the yarn to the back. Finally, before we can dive in, you'll need to slip the last stitch from the right needle to the left needle, so let's do that. If you also watched the flat lateral braid instructions at the beginning of this video, you may remember I said that the working yarn should be attached to the first stitch on the left needle before you begin the process. So this is how we achieve that before working in the round. Alright, now we're going to get into it. Start by inserting the right needle into the back loop of the second stitch and knit it. Make sure you're coming up through the correct stitch and leave that stitch on the left needle. Then knit the first stitch normally through the front loop. And now that both of those stitches have been worked, drop both loops from the left needle. And now for the very important step, slip the last stitch back to the left needle. If you forget to do this step at any point, there will be an obvious break or gap in your braid. Let's repeat the steps one more time. Knit through the back loop of the second stitch. Knit the first stitch normally. Drop both loops off the left needle. And slip the last stitch on the right needle back to the left needle. Then simply repeat those steps, making sure to keep your tension snug so the round that follows the braid is as neat as possible. When you reach the end of the round, meet me back here to close the gap. Alright, I just reached the end of the round, and like when I finish working flat, I'm not going to slip the last stitch back to the left needle. Now you can see that there is a gap between the first and last braid stitches. If I were to just keep knitting without doing what I'm about to show you, I'd have a huge ugly hole right in the middle of my project, and obviously we don't want that. So grab your crochet hook and look for the very first lateral braid stitch. It'll be right under the first stitch on the left needle and will look like a sideways V. Insert the crochet hook under that V from top to bottom. Make sure to go under both strands. And then rotate the crochet hook counterclockwise to hold it like you would your left needle, and slip the last stitch of the round onto the hook. Next, draw the slip stitch up under the braid stitch. And finally, place that stitch back on the right needle. Then gently pull the working yarn snug. And now our lateral braid is connected. So if we went ahead and knitted the next stitch now, you see there is no unsightly hole. It is nice and closed and looks great. And that is all you need to know to make a lateral braid on your project, whether it's worked flat or in the round. But before you go, I want to leave you with a couple more tips to help you be successful when using this embellishment. Earlier in this video, I mentioned that the stitches in the row or round after the braid could look a little stretched out. The good news is, this does not mean that you did something wrong. If you notice it though, you can simply, but gently, stretch the fabric along the lateral braid. Some knitters also like using a needle size half to 1 millimeter smaller than the needle size that will be used after the braid. And you can preemptively size down for the braid if you know that you are a loose knitter. I definitely recommend experimenting to see what you like best. Well, if you enjoyed this video, please don't forget to like it and consider subscribing for more tips and tricks. You can check out more of my videos in the playlist on your screen now. Until next time.